Much for that introduction, and thank you all for having me here today. If you are not sure of what a Chief Sustainability Officer is, you're actually in the majority. And collectively across the world, we are clearly not great branding experts. So first and foremost, when most people think of sustainability, they think of environmental stewardship. And by definition, that is correct. And it's also the compromise between that environmental stewardship as well as economic vitality and social equity. So I just wanted to mention that at the beginning because we do have a lot of really great, innovative and resilient projects that are going on at UNCW that include sustainability. And they are looking at both the people, the planet, and the profit piece of all of these. So today I'm going to give you a short review of how UNCW Sustainability is strategically empowering the community through action and creating comforting plans for the future. And this presentation is not a reflection of my work alone, but the contributions of the Chancellor Sustainability Council, the Sustainability Committee. We have student peer educators and interns, and the Seahawk community at large. And while I love giving presentations, I really like just conversations. So feel free to interrupt me at any point during this. Next slide, please. All right, so the past year was full of changes for everyone. And I just wanted to give you a little update of how UNCW Sustainability was able to adapt to those changes really easily. Starting on the left here, sustainability was able to make an agile transition to the virtual world. And we attracted new and meaningful partnerships. We were one of the first groups to be able to provide programs online for students, faculty, and staff alike. And just in the spring of last year, from March to May, we held 34 programs. Next in the middle here, we actually found other organizations and departments on campus that might have had more of a struggle making that transition to the virtual world. So we collaborated with larger organizations like Randall Library for our end of year celebrations. And this not only solidified relationships with those organizations, but it also amplified our message, which is really great. And lastly, I wanted to reiterate that sustainability by definition is about people, planet, and profit. And we've always had a strong emphasis on that planet piece. I think that the people and the profit's pretty obvious, so we've always been there for the planet. But I think in the past year, we found more than ever the interconnectedness between these. And so we've started to incorporate more demands for social equity in everything that we're doing, especially diversity. And we're going to rise to the challenge of ensuring that our complex mission is more apparent from this point forward. Next slide. So sustainability aligns really well with resiliency. For example, we think about sustainability, you might think about solar panels, and solar panels are wonderful, but they can also be used as a second energy form for backup energy in case of a storm or something like that, and not just as an offset for the energy that we have now. So I wanted to give a few examples of how we are aligning with resiliency. Starting on the left in the white box, we're looking at each and every project that we're doing with resiliency in mind. And so I'm going to give you a really great example of that on the next slide. And moving on to the teal box, sustainability is a leader in a really great project for disaster relief communications. So through a collaboration with the Center for Healthy Communities and the Cape Fear Food Council, we've created a program that actually streamlines communications between hunger relief programs in the Cape Fear region post natural disaster. So we're really finding all of the organizations and where we're having holes in communication when all of our resources are already strained. And by providing the centralized communication, we're reducing the overlaps and filling voids. So we have actually gained the trust of the New Hanover County Emergency Management, the American Red Cross, and the Disaster Coalition. We've utilized our student peer educators and interns, and we performed a comprehensive simulation of this program on Zoom last year. And while I could talk about this literally all day, I wanted to point out that this project exemplifies 4 of UNCW's core values of community engagement, innovation, excellence, and integrity. And last but not least, the gold box on the right. We are writing UNCW's first climate resiliency plan. And as a coastal university, we need to prepare for the expected effects of increased strength and number of hurricanes and meet the UNC system sustainability policy goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. But this plan is actually exciting because we believe it's the first of its kind. It is currently being researched, written, and edited 100% by students. And we will bring in subject matter experts in the community in the next steps, but we really think that this is the most exciting part. And the process started last summer, and it's included courses, interns, as well as an interactive website where anyone can make comments. This plan is truly for the future and by the future. Next slide, please. All right, so circling back to that first bullet I talked about in the last slide. Sustainability has partnered with the NC Coastal Federation and the City of Wilmington to implement awesome stormwater best practices on UNCW's main campus with grant funding. And through this collaboration, UNCW is transforming into a leader in the Cape Fear region for best practices in stormwater. And as the largest landowner in this highly impaired watershed, we're providing solutions to complex problems that directly affect tourism and the economy. So what you're seeing here is a really wonderful volunteer day that we had with students in the community to plant the rain gardens that were planted in front of DePaulo Hall. Through this grant, we were able to plant 4 rain gardens, create and plant 4 rain gardens, as well as replace some of the concrete we have in parking lots with pervious surface so that water doesn't enter the storm drains. Next slide, please. So this is the reason why we are all here today, students. Sustainability is completely funded by a $10 student fee, so our focus is really heavy on students. And by providing applied learning opportunities and utilizing the campus as a living laboratory, sustainability continues to attract students' interest. Just this year, we have 6 paid and 3 volunteer peer educators, 17 interns, which is a much higher number than usual because we are filling the gap for students who need internships to graduate during a time when many organizations are not providing online opportunities. And we also implemented a sustainability learning community with our Uni 101 classes that had 11 students. An exemplary project by the learning community was a partnership with the Good Shepherd Center and the Wilmington Compost Company. The students implemented a composting program at the Good Shepherd Center, and the final product of the compost is used in one of their branches that has a garden, and the garden is beside a building that is used for veterans that are experiencing homelessness. So they both can go and work in the garden and reap the benefits of that produce. Next slide, please. So very quickly, I just wanted to go over some of our achievements from the past year as well. And while we often acknowledge achievements that are large and take up a lot of physical space, some of our most impressive accomplishments have a much smaller footprint. For example, we set a goal to double our previous sustainability pledges, and we surpassed that goal during a pandemic. We have a cross-campus sign campaign that illuminates the less visible sustainability initiatives, such as Wagner Hall as a zero waste facility, to prospective students, current Seahawks, and the community. And additionally, we have had at least 7 news stories covering our efforts, which I believe is a testament to the excellence brewing around our actions based on logic, strategy, and community. And finally, we've been given 4 previously, Cape Fear Stewardship Development Coalition Award. And this time it was for the recreational fields because of the LED lights, coconut husk, and excellent stormwater management. And the picture you see here is actually one of our student government members working in Blumenthal Wildflower Preserve. Next slide. All right, so I just wanted to touch on budget for a moment. As I mentioned before, we are almost completely supported by a student fee. And so I like to make it very transparent how we use that student fee. I believe the most important piece is already highlighted on here. We have placed nearly $36,000 back into students' hands with mini grants, educational opportunities, conferences, and the opportunity to give back to the local community in just 1 year. Our focus is and always will be to support students and their priorities in our area. Next slide. All right, so before we release the poll, I wanted to mention that we survey students each semester. We send a survey to about 4,000 students and we get about 10% of those back. And those surveys help us prioritize what we're gonna focus on in the upcoming years. So my next few slides are going to be about that, but I just kind of wanted to see what this group thinks about the priorities of sustainability. So if you don't mind, thank you. All right, I see we have most of them. Fantastic and very interesting. So this is a very close race with these three ideas of implementation of renewable energy, waste diversion, and preservation of natural areas. But I think it might be exactly opposite of the students, but it's always very close no matter what. So I don't think that anyone is going to be disagreeing with what you're going to hear next. So next slide, please. X out of that. All right. The effort to implement renewable energy is the top priority among students. And we know, as I mentioned before, that we can meet this need while fulfilling a greater purpose. So we are currently working with a team of stakeholders to identify renewable energy projects that will not just serve as a power source, but also resiliency. For example, creating power redundancy as solar energy as a type of generator will elevate the purpose of the project. So some of our most precious resources, such as temperature-dependent research or food or critical lighting, could have solar energy as a generator. Additionally, I'm working with the City of Wilmington, Duke Energy, and Cape Fear Community College to ensure no opportunity for those partnerships is missed. And what you're seeing on this slide is our solar-powered umbrella that was a mini grant that UNCW Sustainability gave to the Student Government Association. So students can sit outside under these umbrellas and plug in their electronics, enjoy the outdoors, as well as, not lose that power source. And this was actually implemented, I think, 2 years ago. So it's been a really great benefit in our current situation. Next slide, please. Another team of stakeholders is currently working on waste minimization and diversion. And as you probably already know, UNCW has an impressive portfolio of waste management innovations, including a partnership with New Hanover County to start the county-wide composting program. We also have styrofoam recycling and a closet cleanout program at the end of each semester where students can donate their things. We will continue to improve upon our current work and in doing so reduce cost. This is the second highest priority of the student body according to surveys. And while what you're seeing here doesn't look as pretty, except for maybe the nice fog in the background, it is very interesting. Students are very excited to actually do these waste characterization studies or waste audits, as some people call them. And so they will literally take a dumpster, dump it out, and kind of go through the materials and find out what could have been recycled, what could have been composted, so we can have better marketing in those buildings specifically. Next slide, please. And lastly, natural areas. UNCW often defines ourselves by our environment as North Carolina's coastal university. So it's appropriate that I end this presentation on our commitment to our most precious resource. I truly appreciate all of the work that's being done for the preservation of our natural resources. And sustainability, along with landscape services, the Natural Areas Committee, business services have had a milestone year with support from student government and associations. We've done everything from rain gardens to tree plantings to maintenance and Blumenthal Wildflower Preserve. And so we're going to continue to create these opportunities for research and volunteer work and celebrate our unique landscape all the time. And this was actually a flytrap planting in Blythewood. Next slide, please. And I did just want to mention briefly, if you're on campus anytime after next week, UNCW Sustainability is going to have its brand new, beautiful workspace for student engagement and creation. It's nestled in Warwick Center, so one of the most frequented buildings on campus. And we're going to provide that accessibility that we've never really had to our department to all students. Obviously, what you're seeing here is a showcase for modern design, but everything here is sustainable. So the materials that it was built with, all of the technology, and obviously repurposed furniture and things of that nature. Next slide, please. So this was just a very small, but hopefully exciting examples of our work and our mission. And if you would like to learn more, please never hesitate to reach out to me.
Thank you, Kat. Are there any questions for Kat? I will comment on the styrofoam recycling. So that has always been one of my biggest pet peeves, is putting styrofoam in I try and buy cartons and containers that aren't styrofoam. I take my egg cartons to Publix now that it's here, and meat trays. But when I heard about the styrofoam recycling really through somebody else in the office, do you all promote that at all? What types of ways do you promote it to the community, greater community?
Yes, absolutely. Right now, we are participating in a competition that's international for waste diversion, and we have an e-cycling component to that we're really promoting. But at the same time, all of our marketing is also going to styrofoam. And next month, I hope to have a highlight during Earth Week with our local marketing and communications avenues to promote all of our different recycling excellent recycling programs.
That's great. So next time somebody gets a new TV or giant piece of electronics equipment that has huge pieces of styrofoam in it, take them to the back of UNCW to the recycling center.
Exactly.
Did someone else have a question?
Hey, it's Angie Sheriff. No, I really like the part where you were talking about what the students and how they're learning, even where their dorms are, and they're able to go back and look at what's in the dumpsters and what could have been recycled, what could have been composted, and things like that. Do y'all ever have like competitions between the dorms or something like that to see who's making the most difference? Because this is creating habits for their future life.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that this is really the time that they're creating the habits that will hopefully go into their adulthood. And so we do host competitions. We've had water savings as well as recycling competitions. We haven't done one for energy yet, but that is definitely our next step.
Good. Thank you. Any others?
Thank you.
Kat, thank you so much for that fascinating presentation and educating us all on all the great things going on at UNCW towards sustainability.
Thank you.
Chancellor, since we have you visiting us today, is there anything you would like to update us on?
Donna, before the chancellor goes, I think Marty might have had a question, but he was
I'm sorry.
So I'm
Marty?
sorry.
Where is the recycling center at UNCW for styrofoam?
That is also a great question. So we have a recycling depot in the back of campus off of Lionfish Drive. You can go down Plyler Drive from Regal, or you can go all the way through campus and see all the new beautiful buildings, but it is off Plyler Drive at the very back, and you'll see it's got a chain link fence, but it's very visible. And as I mentioned before, you can also drop off electronics. We ask that you not drop those off in that area because they might have mercury or something in them that we don't want touched. So just make sure to drop those off inside the recycling department, which is right beside it.
Yeah, it's very easy to access from Rose Avenue behind the campus. So you Rose Avenue, and then you turn on Regal. It's your next right there. So thank you again, Kat.